Towner?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Welch?
Yes.
And Ms. Daly?
Yes, present. Tonight, we do have two public hearings that we'll do before the body of our meeting, so we have some language to go through. I'm going to start with the first one, which is a public hearing for our bond issuance. A quorum being present, the first order of business is to hold a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposal to sell $2,340,000 in school fire prevention and safety bonds for the purpose of conforming its existing facilities that house students to the building code promulgated by the State Board of Education of the State of Illinois by altering, reconstructing, and repairing said facilities and having equipment purchased and installed therein. All persons desiring to be heard will have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony. The reasons for the proposed issuance of the bonds are as follows: to construct life safety improvements in the Riverside Brookfield High School building as approved by the state superintendent. Are there comments from members of the Board of Education? Seeing none, are there any public comments concerning the proposed issuance of bonds? Seeing none, we're going to move on. All persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony with respect to the proposed issuance of the bonds. May I have a motion to adjourn?
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, moves that the public hearing for the proposal to sell school fire protection and safety bonds be adjourned.
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Welch. Can we have a roll call, please, Ms. Nardi?
Mr. Durkin?
Bill?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Daly?
Yes. The motion is carried and the hearing is adjourned. The next order of business is to hold a public hearing on the budget prepared in tentative form as set forth in the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Education held on June 14th, 2022. The tentative budget for District 208 for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023 was placed on file and was conveniently available at the district's administrative offices. All persons desiring to be heard will have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony. Dr. Skinkis and Dr. Smetana, would you care to present?
Thank you. Dr. Smetana will go into a detailed presentation on the budget, or I should say a summative presentation of the budget. But we are currently sitting with a small surplus of near
625,000.
and we have made all adjustments to accommodate the increase in CPPRT and a few other areas, and I'll have Dr. Smetana address those now.
Yes, thank you. The biggest change in revenue, as Dr. Skinkus mentioned, was the CPPRT estimate was released in August, and so we updated the budget accordingly to release that estimate. We also finalized expenditures for certified and classified staffing to reflect our final staffing numbers and needs. And then also I worked with our Director of Special Education and our Special Education Cooperative, which is LADSI, to review both final education, special education, both expenses and revenues based upon our current student count for our students in special education. And then additionally, due to the increase in revenue from CPPRT, we were able to add some additional expenditures for building initiatives such as blended learning, peer evaluation, some academic interventions, LED lighting in the auditorium, and continuing to update the library furniture with flexible seating. And then also we're doing some improvements to the student drop-off area to make that safer for students in the morning. The tentative budget has been on display for the district on the district's website since June, and all changes have been updated accordingly for public review. We did also publish the notice in the paper more than 30 days in advance, and a hard copy has been available as well.
Are there any comments or questions from the Board of Education?
So we now have a final budget we're going to vote on later.
Correct.
Correct.
This is just for the public to
This is the official public hearing, yes.
give them a chance to weigh in on our budget.
That is correct. I don't believe we've received any written comments from the public, and I don't see anyone present here this evening to comment on the budget.
Thank you.
So all persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony with respect to the proposed budget. Can we have a motion to adjourn this hearing, please?
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, moves that the public hearing for the 2022-2023 budget be adjourned.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Welch. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Salas?
Yes. Motion carries and the hearing is adjourned. The regular meeting will now proceed. We'll move on to page 2 of our board packet. Discussion information items. Can you please detail the FOIA request?
Yes,
Dr.
we had a
Stankus?
few FOIA requests this month. First was Smart Procure. We get this about every 6 months, requesting purchase order numbers, purchase dates, line item details. So that response was provided. Then we received another request from the Chicago Tribune. This, I think, was going off an article that was written late last spring about the number of incidents, or student incidents referred to law enforcement. So we forwarded that information. They were also looking for that to be broken down between students with IEPs or 504s and students with no IEPs or 504s. So we did provide that information. We do keep a track of that as well. The third FOIA request was a different FOIA request from a different person at Smart Procure requesting like employee information requests. And again, we get this annually as well. So those are the 3 FOIAs this month.
Any questions? We can move on to additional discussion items. Does anyone have any additional discussion items for tonight's meeting for the future? Okay, thank you. Visitor statements for the regular Board of Education meeting. Seeing none here, we can move on to the consent agenda action items, approval of minutes.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, takes the following action on the listed consent agenda items. Approves minutes from the meetings held on August 9th, 2022, open and closed, as presented in the September 13th, 2022 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second by Mr. Welch.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries. Old business, life safety items, capital improvement, sustainability.
So no updates at this point in time. Kristen and I did ask for a proposal for commissioning. So the board members that may remember this, when we did all the modifications to the pool, at that time Mr. Jacobs was on the school board, and being an architect and being on the facilities advisory council, he recommended a commissioning agent. And a commissioning agent actually did help us identify some variance between the design and the actual install when we did like the test and balance testing, and so we did have to make a few modifications. So a commissioning agent is a third party that the school district hires for a small fee, and they come in and basically review the design from the architect and engineer before it's installed and goes out to bid, and then they test the equipment to make sure it's operating at the qualifications that were listed in the design. So like the test and balance, the amount of airflow, the $2 million that the board approved, the $2.3 million the board approved tonight will be for the 2 largest HVAC units that sit on the roofs over the cafeteria and library, and also provide HVAC to those classrooms in that area. And so the commissioning agent comes in and does a test to make sure those are operating as designed when installed. And that's part of the pre-bid specs too, so that the companies that bid on the project are aware that there'll be a commissioning agent to check their work. So it's really a third level of checks and balance for us, and it's approximately around $10,000 for the commissioning agent. So on a $2 million project, I think that's worth the investment to make sure everything's being installed correctly and operating effectively. So that's all I have in regards to the life safety and capital improvements updates.
So is the commissioning agent like certified somehow?
It's a certified engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, they strictly have a firm that does nothing but goes out and commissions projects. And so the agent we're going to use is the same agent, I think Mr. Jacobs at the time had given us 3 agencies to look at, and we're using the same agency, one of the agents that we used for the last project.
Is that a flat fee they charge, or is it a percentage of the?
It's a flat fee.
Okay. And do we need a separate agreement with them, or is that?
It's under 25. It's not a bidding agreement, so I think it's just a signed agreement that we can sign off in the business office.
So just assurance that it's taking place.
Right. Kristen, do you remember if the board approved the commissioning agent last time?
I don't recall, I'd have to double check.
I know I recall the discussion. I don't remember how it was.
Yeah, I don't.
We could bring the agreement to the board in September if the board would like to review it. I could also send it out on a Friday update, just so you see what they'll be working on. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And as it relates to the bonds, now that the hearing is complete, can we just confirm that we've followed all of the steps laid out in statute?
Yes, we have. And then the board actually will approve the issuance of the bonds at the October 11th meeting.
Thank you. Just for those of us, when we look through the packet, and from talking to our agent a few weeks ago, I mean, there's obviously a number of steps that are very particular. I want to make sure that we're following them in accordance with the statute.
Any idea when the lock-in interest date is?
The proposal that she showed the board had an extra point built in just for precautionary reasons, so we're hoping it'll be less than that. And we're looking at a 2-year payoff to have the $30 impact on the taxpayers over 2 years, and that to have those paid off. So
Thank you.
Any other questions on the life safety items, the bond process? Then we do have to take action on the budget.
Okay,
What do we want to discuss the budget, or Dr. Smetana? Any additional questions from the budget? I know it's been presented here on a couple of occasions. We just had the hearing. Anything from our student representatives? Any questions on the budget? Okay.
thank you, by the way, because it's a lot of work. Okay, whereas the Board of Education Township High School District Number 208, Cook County of Cook, Whereas the Board of Education of Township High School District Number 208, County of Cook, State of Illinois, caused to be prepared in tentative form a budget, and the Secretary of this board has made the same conveniently available to the public for inspection for at least 30 days prior to final action thereon. Whereas a public hearing was held as to such budget on the 13th day of September 2022, notice of said hearing was given at least 30 days prior thereto as required by law, and all other legal requirements have been complied with. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of said district as follows. Section 1, that the fiscal year of this high school district be and the same hereby is fixed and declared to be beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023. Section 2, that the following budget containing an estimate of amounts available in each fund separately and of expenditures from each be, and the same is hereby adopted as the budget of this school district for said fiscal year.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Welch. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
And Ms. Salas?
Yes. Our budget is approved. Thank you all,
Yay.
especially Dr. Smetana and the team for all of the work that goes into that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Moving on to new business payment of bills.
I don't believe there were any questions submitted on bill. Oh, there was. Mr. Welch submitted a question for the dues.
Yes, on board book page 129, there was a question about paying Ridgewood High School $2,800. It's for our annual conference dues.
Any additional questions?
What page was that?
129 at the top.
Thank you.
Any additional? Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Can we have a motion?
Sure. Payment of bills. The Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois approves the payment of bills as presented in the September 13th, 2022 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second by Mr. Welch.
Thank you. And we do need a roll call.
Mr. Van
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
And Ms. Salas?
Yes. The first read on the Consolidated District Plan.
This is, again, another formality from the State Board of Education. We approved this back in 2019, but now they're requiring it annually as part of their GATA grant approvals process. The district needs to present a plan each year to the Board of Education on how we are planning on spending Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV IDEA dollars. It's a formality. Again, first read, we can approve it at the next meeting, or the board can take action tonight.
Did you have any questions on this?
I did not get any questions submitted.
Do we wish to go ahead and approve it this evening, or do we want to do it as a first read, second read?
I'd like to just do it.
Yeah, it doesn't
I'm
involve
fine
any
approving it.
expenditure.
Yep.
I would
If there's
suggest.
no questions now, I'm sure there'll be no questions next time.
I would hate to be a betting person, but I would agree.
Okay, here we go. The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois approves the Consolidated District Plan as presented in the September 13th, 2022 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second by Mr. Welch. And can we have a roll call, please, on this?
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
And Ms. Sager?
Yes. This is the second opportunity for visitor statements. Seeing none. Discussion items and/or consideration of items for future meetings. Do we have anything from any of the members of the body? Seeing none, we can move on to matters for closed session. Appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, student discipline, individual student matters, purchase, sale, or lease of real property, probable imminent or pending litigation, collective negotiations, and school safety. We have a motion, please.
Can we, before we do that?
Yeah, I
we
was gonna
ask
say,
if
can we
get
hear
the
from our-
student reps as we would be moving out, if they have anything to comment on at the beginning of the school?
Sure, I mean,
Yeah.
normally we would put you in on the committee of the whole, but we absolutely,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
no, but absolutely.
I was thinking
Yeah,
the
okay.
same thing, though. I mean,
It was a
I
very
know
short
it's
meeting.
not- Right.
Do you guys have any questions or comments?
as this is the first meeting where the school year's been underway, I figured we'd give them a chance to
Oh, good point.
comment if we had anything, so.
Just want to give you guys an update on RB. The last few weeks have been very fun and productive. When homecoming on the way this week has been filled with school spirit. The senior night football game last Friday was very energetic, and everyone was wearing gold to support Cal's Angels, which is a pediatric cancer organization. I know our swim team has Cal's Angels swim caps, which are yellow, and at our swim meet this Saturday, we made a donation basket, and we raised over $200 for the foundation. We also had a guest speaker, Mr. Terrence Lester, come to speak with the whole school last Friday. His message was absolutely amazing, and I believe many students went home with a new perspective on life after hearing his story. I personally felt very emotional during his speech because it made me realize how I sometimes take life for granted, and with this life I've been given, I can do so much with it. And I believe that having speakers of different ethnicities and experiences can give each and every student something to feel connected to. And I believe that we should have more in-school assemblies like that because I think it brings the school together as a whole.
Paulina?
Thank you.
So going off of what Asia said, I do think that the presentation was very helpful for the school, and I think that we should continue to try to have speakers of that nature with different backgrounds and experiences come in to raise awareness and consciousness for problems that are going on in our surrounding communities. And kind of switching to a whole different lane, I also think that the school, speaking as a senior, I think they do a very good job of providing us with college information. Personally, the college presentations were very helpful for the college application process and sort of understanding it better. And I think the school should continue to give those presentations and kind of elaborate on the whole process. And there we go.
Oh, thank you for your feedback. Thank you, Mr. Van Horst, for
You'll have an
reminding me.
opportunity to present again next meeting, okay?
Thank you very much. And I would encourage you, when you meet with Dr. Freitas, some of those, if you have ideas about speakers or specific college programming, I think that they're very open to hearing your ideas on that front as well. Thank you. Anyone else?
Now can I second the motion?
I haven't made it yet.
We didn't cover the items.
You got it in there.
All right, we need to cover the items, right?
I did. I read
She
the items
did.
off the agenda.
Okay. The Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois enters closed session for the purpose of considering the closed session matters as presented in the September 13th, 2022 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
There you go.
Mr. Van Horst has seconded. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Salas?
Yes. And we are moving into closed session.